Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another very, very impressive guest. She comes highly recommended by a lot of people, especially because a lot of people that she works with become more and more successful and they make better decisions and they take better action because she is very, very good at what she does. She's one of those individuals that when she first started out was so driven, so determined to succeed that within 2 months she was able to transform her annual income into a monthly income, which is a dream for a lot of people. But she's been helping a lot of people do that as well now. So very, very excited to have her here. She is a person who truly believes that true transformational change begins with a decision. And that decision then leads to everything else. But it doesn't start with an action. It doesn't start with anything else. But that decision has to be made first. She's been helping a lot of people stop waiting for a plan, learn how to decide, align themselves with the natural laws, and of course, unlock success from the inside out. So please welcome natural universal laws expert, a science of the mind integration expert, Ms. Angie Tomlinson.
Thank you so much, Fong. I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited to speak to your audience and talk about how to go for it in your life. Many people know they can do better and they want better, but they're not sure how to get started. And so I'm just very excited, and I love the work that you do and how you're out there just really helping make change. And I'm just really thrilled to be here today. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being here. Always excited to speak with individuals who has been doing so many good things and helping other people because they've gone through that transformation. They've gone through that experience and passing on that knowledge to other people. So first of all, how did you become who you are? Like that story of 2 months and transforming everything in your life is incredible. And I would love to hear that story.
Well, I think it comes from you come to a place in your life where it feels like Groundhog's Day, and you know there's more in you. I think each of us have that in us where you can do better, but you're not sure what that is. And the feeling of it, I think, is what really got to me. And what I think, out of most things, I wish we had these big shifts in happy times, but we tend to have them in challenging times. And my father, who was 61, was killed in a train accident. It was just an accident, but he was 61, and that had a profound shift in my life. Um, you know, I I was really fortunate enough to come across a gentleman called Bob Proctor, who really helped me understand what paradigms are. And before I knew what had happened, I had a paradigm shift when my father died. I was used to security and safety. He was my dad, of course. And when that was gone, even though I'd been married and I had my own three kids, this innate feeling in me, who's going to take care of this safety feeling within me? And I looked around, and I knew that I had to do it myself. And I started working hard. And my husband and I, we owned two storefront businesses at the time, and we were working about 10 to 12 hours every day. You know that feeling? And we were just grinding it out and working really, really hard. And we got all kinds of accolades and awards from our community, but that didn't pay the bills. My husband and I were bringing home about 5,000 Canadian a month, and that's not enough to live on when you're raising a family. That's tough. That's really, really tough. And we both had, great educations. We both had degrees. We had done really, really well. And I'd heard, go get a good education, go get a job, start your own business. And I did all of that, and I was really unhappy. And then I just kept grinding it out. And 6 years later, my mom got cancer and passed away in her early 60s. So now these things, these paradigms I'm used to living in, no one's reinforcing them any longer. And I took a look at my life, and I couldn't take time off to grieve. That was the biggest thing. And I started noticing I didn't get to take time off. I didn't have freedom of owning my own business. They talk about having that freedom. If I didn't go to work, we didn't make money. If we didn't make money, we didn't have a home. And I was just really, really struggling. And inevitably, when you look, the teacher comes, and Bob showed up, and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, I had grown up with a father who was a logger. And so I had learned a really great lesson. Maybe our fathers knew one another. You got to work really hard for your money. And boy, was I working hard. And another thing, I grew up in the church, and I had a lot of religious beliefs about money. Now, whether they're right or wrong, this was my understanding growing up, the feeling, I'm going to tell you my feeling that money is the root of all evil. All rich people are going straight to hell. You can't serve both God and money. If you have it, someone else doesn't. And be content. If you're not content, then you're evil. You don't believe in God's blessings. And I just had all these mixed messages. And so when Bob asked me, "What do you want?" I said, "I'd like to make a lot of money." And he said, "What's a lot?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, why don't you turn your annual income into your monthly income?" Like just this casual phrase. And I remember my cheeks got red. I got very upset. And I said, "How could I possibly take a whole year and put it in a month? Did you not hear me? I'm already working 10 to 12 hours." And he said, "Don't worry about the who or the how." And that sounded like rainbow hearts and unicorn farts. I was like, I do not understand what you're saying. And he said, "I want you to write a story as if it's happening, not how it's happening, but as if it's happening." And so I wrote a story out as if it was happening, and I read it every day for 2 months. Now, there was some profound things that happened in that time period where I learned, working with him, I learned to build some ideas within myself and in my imagination. He couldn't do that for me. I had to do it for myself.
Right.
He guided me through it. And I think most of us have never been guided to do that, to use some concepts about ourselves that we don't do. We tend to look at what we can see, hear, feel, what we can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. That's what we tend to put our energy on. In fact, let me just ask you a question, Fong. As we're sitting here, and your guests as well, look around your room. Do you see anything the color of red?
Yep.
Yeah, you're wearing a red tie. A few moments ago, were you thinking about the color red?
Possibly.
Possibly. You either were or you weren't. Were you thinking about the color red?
Well, when I was preparing for this interview, I was thinking, let's put on red today. So I had the thought of
Or the
red
thought of
before,
red?
yeah.
But when we were talking just a moment ago, were you thinking of the color red? No, but red was always there, but your attention wasn't on it.
Mm.
Your attention was on other things. Your attention was on my story, and that was energy that you were thinking of. And so the red was always in the room, but as soon as you put your attention on it and you had to hold your will on that, then it appeared.
Right.
But it was always there. So what would happen if that same thing applied to an opportunity for you or the kind of life you want to lead? In the idea of the science of mind, the idea of quantum physics being able to be with the mind, all things exist simultaneously. If you go into, just as an example, if you go into, the movies when they have them in the thin can, the movie, and if you walked into a room with a whole bunch of movies in there, all those movies are happening simultaneously, but I get to choose which can I want to pull out to watch. And that's really what we're doing is we're creating the life that we want. And it's there at any moment. The key to all of it is that you must decide which movie you want to be in. And you must decide if you're going to be a support person or you're going to be the star of the show. And for the first time in my life, he guided me to be the star of my own show and create my own movie. And I had to decide that. And I was making decisions. I mean, I had two storefront businesses, been married for 35 years. I had done a lot of things. I was actually 49 when I did this work, and there were things that I had already within me. They were just untapped. See, if you can see it in your mind, you already have the ability to do it. It's just a matter of you surrendering to that idea. And I did not learn the power of decision to learn to surrender to that. I was really just living by paradigms. So I had to learn this technique of learning to surrender and get into the spirit of the idea. And we are so mechanical in thought and so intellectual. I want the 10 steps to get there. Give me the 10 things to do. And then people do the 10 things and they're further away from their goal because they have not got into the feeling of it first to let that minutia take hold of you. And people don't spend that time really feeling the feeling. Oh, people make vision boards and meditate about things, but they don't play the video for themselves of what it will look like, not how it's going to look like, but what. And as soon as you do, the world just opens up and your path is lit, like lit up. And that's what happened. My path was lit up. And before I knew it, I had made 50 grand and I was on a plane to see Bob. And I had no idea really what was happening. The universe is really fast. Like the universe loves speed. And once you fall into that, just things just start lighting up. And I went to his organization and people said, "How long have you been studying this material?" You know, and they all knew one another and I didn't know any of them. And they said, "How long have you been studying this material?" And I said, "Oh, I haven't even taken the cellophane off of the program yet." You know, and people will ask you, "Well, how did you do that? How did you do that? What did you do?" It didn't matter what I did. The magic was that I shifted my thought and made a decision from that place. And that's what you start making these little decisions. It's like the door opens up and you have no idea how you got there, but that's because it's taken hold of you by attraction. And I have never looked back since then. I've turned my annual income into a monthly income and then a weekly income, and it's changed my whole life. And I love helping people understand the science of mind. Yeah.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of your story kind of relates to what I've kind of heard before, and also what I've gone through with some of the stuff I do and whatnot. I love how you mentioned the fact that yeah, money's evil to a lot of people. That's actually some of the things my parents told me about, and like yeah, don't go into all that stuff. It's probably not good for you, blah blah, blah and all kind and whatnot. But I realized very quickly that when you talk to people who are successful and have the income and whatnot, they're very, very opening, very, very welcoming and willing to share and all that kind of stuff, which is very different than what I've been taught
Yeah.
at an early age. And then also when it comes to religion and all that kind of stuff, I know everybody has their own mindsets, their own religion, their own beliefs, and it's somewhat challenging to challenge that belief sometimes. And you went ahead and did so. How did you actually overcome that thought process? Because I'm sure a lot of people would be against you doing so,
Yeah.
having challenged the norm or challenge what you've been brought up with. How do you overcome the people around you telling you not to do it?
Well, here's, I will tell you, I have a lovely husband. Like, he's amazing. We've been married a long time, but we grew up where he was also taught a concept where he's the breadwinner, he's the head of the home, he's the one who's supposed to be in charge. And I was his helpmate. And I believed that. I mean, I was a dutiful wife. I still am. But I, at this point, like I found myself wanting to have this life and trying to push him into it. And the more I pushed, the more resistance there was because it was difficult for him to wrap his head around, a lot of things. This was before I found Bob's work. I knew I wanted more, but I just wasn't sure how to get it. And he ran a drive-through coffee bar. We were the first ones in Vernon, British Columbia, to have a drive-through coffee bar, and we came from the States, and so there's a drive-through coffee bar on every corner in the States. So we manifested that really fast, but we didn't call it manifestation back then. We called it, oh, it must be God's divine timing. It must be all of these things. God's favorable to us. And, I used to think that. And when we resigned from the church, I didn't find that we were favorable. I've really struggled. My husband and I were pastors and we resigned, and that's how we got into business. And it was, I kept thinking, are we not favored? This was a belief that I had. And when we opened up the drive-through coffee bar, things were favorable. And so, there's a saying that my husband uses. I think it comes from a fable of it's too early to tell. The story about anyway, I'm digressing. I'm sorry. But it was too early to tell. I think sometimes we say, oh, this is good and this is bad and this is good and this is bad. It's too early to tell because things have a time, a gestation to come about. And when I started working with Bob and I said I was going to make 50,000 a month, my husband said to me, I said to him, how much money would you like me to give to the family? And he kind of laughed and said, "Well, if you can bring in 2,500 and give it to me, that would be great." And I made 5,000 and I gave him 2,500 and I kept the rest for myself. So I kept 3750 for or 4750 for myself. And even though we shared the same bank account, I let him know this is the money I'm going to use for my business. And he was sort of shocked. And you would think he would be really happy that I made that amount of money. No, because it went against his paradigm. He's like, I don't know how to make 50 grand a month. And I did it the next month and the next month and the next month. And he was like, I don't know how, I don't know how to do this. And it put a lot of issues in our marriage because we had to break through some paradigms.
Right.
But I could not go backwards. Like once the genie was out, I couldn't go backwards. If I really truly believe that all things are made by him, that, creation is finished, then I have to know this way is a way for me. But I had lots of people tell me, as a woman, you can't do this. You women are to remain silent. You're helpmate for your husband. And so I had to say, what happens if that's not true? What happens if that's somebody's idea?
Right.
And I really had to, go deep within myself and say, what is it that I want? And that's what Bob started that question. What do you want? And he said, it is your God-given right. And I knew that deep in my soul. It is my God-given right. But I was pleasing way too many people to fit into society, my religion, my family system. And, it caused a lot of angst. And every situation that came up was an opportunity to solidify my vision. If I did not hold to that vision, I would not be able to overcome a lot of the habits that I had created in the past with people. And I had to be able to say to them, apologize to them, and say, I know this is what I said I wanted to be, but I know this is who I am. I was finally becoming the I am within myself. And now I live in a beautiful home. I love helping clients get the kind of income that they want or the kind of life that they want. It doesn't necessarily income. Some people have really great jobs, but they want a better relationship or a better career. They want fulfillment, and I think it comes down from knowing yourself. Know thyself. And I didn't know myself. I was giving it away for what everyone else wanted me to be. And that shift, that was the work. And most people won't do that work. And that's what makes the one percenters. Those are the people that do the work and they know it. And when you speak to them, you hear the command in their voice. They aren't just talking about stuff, they are living it, and you feel that spirit within them. We live in a society with so much information and we use our intellect. But there is another part of us. We live on three parts of ourselves. We live in the spiritual part, which is our imagination. And we live in the intellectual part, which is our education and our reasoning that we use. And then we live in the physical, the 3D world where we're moving objects, and people tend to operate in the 3D world and the intellect, and they don't know how to access that spiritual part of them, that imaginative part of them. And I surrendered that without knowing it in religion. I surrendered my ability to create, and this is where I really believed Jesus Christ was the really good teacher of this. I'm not here to talk about religion. That's not what I'm doing. He was a master at understanding. He grew up being taught a certain way, going to the temples and going and reading and studying how to be a Jew, essentially. And then he went into the desert. He was challenged. He knew there was more to life, and he was challenged. And I know this is my own thought here. I'm not meaning to kick a thing, but I look at it from a spiritual aspect of putting myself there. I don't think he met Satan per se. I think he met himself, his lower self, and asking himself, you know, do I want to go for fame? Do I want to go for power? Do I want to go for riches? And he wanted something more. He wanted a divineness, the Christ, the teacher within. Christ just means teacher within. And, overcoming a lot of my religious upbringing and thoughts when I really started studying with this new mindset, and especially using the natural laws, Bob called the natural laws God's modus operandi. And I started studying them and I started using them to create, rather than my old paradigm, I started creating new ones using natural laws. It was ways that I wasn't thinking or putting concepts together before. No one can do that work for you, by the way. Nobody can. You can be inspired by somebody, but inspiration has a very short shelf life. It comes from being inspired and then making a committed decision and then facing your old paradigm and building your new one. And most people want to fix their old paradigm. You can't fix your old paradigm. You must create a new one. And Buckminster Fuller said, to build a new model, you must make the old model obsolete. So I needed to make the old model obsolete. And I feel more myself today than ever in my whole life. I feel more free to be me. And I'm forever grateful for that. But it takes great courage to transform yourself. And it's not about information. It is about transforming and learning to live from the end, not to the end. Most people live to the end. No, you must become it right now. You must be it to do it, to have it. People want to have it to be it, to do it. No, you must do it. You must be it first. Be who you are to be. No one can see that but you in your own imagination. And then you must find ways of being that in the world, of learning to express that in the world. And then it will just come naturally to you. It really will. The law of attraction, when it was introduced through The Secret, I think people only understood 1/7 of the natural laws, only 1/7. But I'm forever grateful because it did get us down the journey to understand it is our own thinking within. But people just landed on, the law of attraction and didn't understand there's the law of vibration. There's the law of perpetual transmutation. There's the law of relativity and polarity and gestation and rhythm. And we don't study those things. We would rather study systems. And if you get those feelings inside of you, the system comes just like that, easily and effortlessly. There are challenges because you're going to want to go back to your old and you have to say, no, your results will always tell the truth of your use of your mind, the use of how you are using these laws, these natural laws. So you must become them and learn to fortify them in your life. No one's coming, no mommy or daddy, no one's coming to do this work for you. Bob couldn't do it for me. Bob didn't do my success. Bob showed me to my success. I had to create that for myself, and it's going to look different for me as it is for you. And a lot of coaching out there today is do these 10 things that I do. You must become it, and your path is right for you. It's finding somebody to help you stay on your path. That's the key, not do your path. So I just rambled on there for like 10 minutes there, but I hope that was helpful.
No,
Yeah.
it's all good. I mean, you answered a lot of questions I was going to ask anyway, so it's all good.
Good,
Uh,
good.
well, you mentioned a lot of things that people should really dive into and dig deeper into. I like the fact that you mentioned religion and you did say that, hey, religion, we're not here to talk about religion.
Oh,
However, just because there's a label of religion on it
yeah.
doesn't mean that the lessons being taught in it
Oh,
doesn't apply.
no. Yeah.
And there's so many people out there that goes, oh, that doesn't apply to me because it's this religion, or that doesn't apply to me because it's in that country, or whatever it is. But they don't really put themselves into that lesson and go, hey, wait a minute, I could actually use this into what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, there's something that I understood very early in my life, and it was the difference between a principle and a method. And so let's just use a simple terminology or a simple concept for this. Let's say you want to feed the baby. The principle is we want to feed the baby. The method may be, breast milk, Palbum, uh, formula. There's all different ways to feed the baby. And sometimes what happens is the method then becomes the principle. That's when we get into trouble. And in every religion and every society and every culture, you will see the natural laws at work. If you will learn the natural laws, you'll get out of the 3D and the intellect of things, and you'll start seeing the spirituality of things. And when you're not aware, you want to follow, the 10 steps that you need to do. And this is what I really loved about what Jesus as a masterful teacher said is that he essentially said the laws are there, but it goes beyond the law. When it says don't kill your brother, that is true. It doesn't help society to kill your brother. But I'm saying don't even be angry at your brother. Like it's beyond that. We are at right now, our society is coming to a place where we have been fighting for methods. And there's all kinds of methods, and guess what? They all work. And we sit there and argue with one another. Nope, this method is right. Nope, this method is right. And this is where we create the violence of the world because we are ignorant to the power of it. One of my favorite writers is Neville Goddard, and I just wanted to, if it's okay, I just wanted to read something. He wrote a book called Awakened Imagination. And in there, the very first chapter is he talks about what is imagination? What is it? And if I can, I just want to read this. I just pulled this book up real quick as we were talking, but I just wanted to just read what he says here. He says, certain words in the course of long use gather so many strange connotations that they almost cease to mean anything at all. Such a word is imagination. This word is made to serve all manner of ideas, some of them directly opposed to one another. Fancy, thought, hallucination, suspicion, indeed, so wide is its use, so varied is its meaning, the word imagination has no fixed nor significance. For example, we ask a man to use his imagination, meaning that his present outlook is too restricted and therefore not equal to the task. In the next breath, we tell him that his ideas are pure imagination, thereby implying that his ideas are unsound. We speak of a jealous or suspicious person as a victim of his own imagination, meaning that his thoughts are untrue. A minute later, we pay a man the highest tribute by describing him as a man of imagination. Thus, the word imagination has no definite meaning. Even the dictionary gives us no help. And he goes on to say, I identify imagination with the central theme in the Gospels, which is Jesus Christ, which he was able to reason through things in a way because of his spiritual idea that he was connected to source, that he could forgive his own sin. He could let go of his own way and he could go to a new concept of himself. And we are adopted in with him in this sonship. Now, I had a lot of pictures of that growing up, but I now realize he was talking about he's not Jesus the Christ. He is Jesus who understood the Christ, the teacher within him. We each have that teacher within us. We are all connected. We are all heirs of this idea. But we grow up in paradigms very young, where you have to be this, you have to be this, you have to be this. And there comes one day where you've had enough and you said, I don't think that's who I am. I think I am something different. And this is what happened to me. And having Bob walk me through that journey was very, very important and very enlightening. And I feel like I have aged backwards. I feel I have more vitality, more youth, everything, because I have found the freedom within myself. The burden is when you feel like you cannot be the true you. You don't know you. You only know a version of you. But that quiet voice in you that says there's more, that's the voice you want to listen to. And I love just a little bit later, he says, this is really the theme of my whole life is right here, written here. This is what shifted my desire, my purpose is, he says, I know of no greater or truer definition of imagination than that of Blake. By imagination, we have the power to be anything we desire to be. Through imagination, we disarm and transform the violence of the world. Why would imagination do that? I think this is exactly what Jesus even spoke about. And I know Buddha spoke about it. I know many religious masters have spoken about this. Ask, seek, knock, and the door will be open. The kingdom of heaven is here. It's not somewhere else. It's here. It's up to you to come in and create what it wants. We're creators. We're co-creators with the infinite. And I had a very limited idea of the infinite. I don't know if I'll ever know I know there's always more. The further I go, the further I see. But I must be that teacher for myself and learn from masters and implement it and integrate it into my own life and go forward and create with that. Most people don't know to do that work. I didn't. I didn't. I I was an unconscious competent creating businesses, but the money part, I had an idea that was given to me and I had to shift that idea. So people will say, you know what, I didn't even have a business name. I didn't have a business name, I didn't have a website, I didn't have all of those things, and I made $1 million without ever having all of these things. I didn't have a business plan, I didn't have any of that. I just knew that this source, to get people to the source, was important. It never came through Bob. It never came from Bob. It doesn't come from Bob. It doesn't come from these leaders. It can come through them, but not from them. Your money doesn't come from your bank. It doesn't come from your job. It can come through them, but not from them. And you can tap into the infinite because the infinite has it all and will help you create. And I just think people they don't know this message. This is the great news. This is the good news. And I think we're so caught up in our intellect that we have forgot our intelligence. We don't understand our own intelligence. And if I could encourage anyone, to be able to go for it, is find a way to study your own intelligence. Every single week on a Tuesday, I have a go for it um, activating talk that I do every Tuesday. And, your listeners can come to it if they want to come to it, but it is a free talk that I do. And it is, how do you activate this within yourself? How do you begin to do it? It's about a 30, 40 minute, talk, but man, come. If I can help you get there, if you can tell me what you want, I can show you how to get there. And it's all within you. It's not somebody else, it's you. But you got to know you and what you want. Yeah.
That is a lot of deep stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
to kind of and I hate doing the steps things, which you already kind of alluded to.
There
What are
are.
some
Oh, there are.
yes, because like the steps things are stuff that reins people in to
Yeah.
get them closer to that thought process,
Yeah.
right? So are there certain daily things that people can do that can at least get them ready to accept that kind of mindset or to think that way? Are there situations where you currently are still sometimes taking a step back and go, wait a minute, my mind is in the past now. I need to go back to now so I could think the right way. Like, what are those things that people can do to help them get towards that mindset?
I do think it has to do with science of the mind. I really do. Um, we are a chemistry, we have a pharmacy within us. We really do. And our nervous system runs on this pharmacy that we make. And the pharmacy is made by our thoughts, essentially. And when I first started doing this and Bob asked me, what do you want? In all honesty, it was a 3 month period of me asking myself every day, just like, you know, Jesus going into the desert, what do I want? He went there for 40 days. I was 3 months asking myself every day, sitting down, what do I want? And the first thing that I went through, the first iteration that I went through is, what should I do? So I did all the shoulding. And shooting on yourself is nasty business, just nasty. But I got it out of my system, all the shoulds, and nothing really resonated. Like I didn't get excited about it. And then I went through, what does everyone else think I should do? And I went through what other people, well, actually, what other people were doing. I started asking myself, what should I do? And then what are other people doing that I'm interested in? And I couldn't really find anything that I was quite interested in. And then I finally came to a point of, what do I want? Even though I asked it. And I journaled about it every day. And then I would go back and read it and say, that doesn't resonate. That doesn't resonate. But my nervous system was so in, I guess, a fight or flight that I couldn't really get still. I tried many times. I would turn on relaxing music. I would light a candle and I would journal for about 10, 15 minutes every day. What do I want? And finally it came. It came. And when I finally realized in my vision of my life, if I could make money, that would be really great. Not so hard. I'd put myself in the hospital, overworking from exhaustion and just anxiety. And I wanted to have it easy. I wanted to have ease and flow in my life and enjoy life. Like I saw people,
Yeah.
enjoying their life. I wasn't enjoying my life. And when I finally thought, I think the cause to the effect is if I could make money doing something I really enjoyed, then I would. And I wrote down skills that I had. I wrote down 3 times that I hit it out of the park where I loved what I did. And what I realized, really, what I love doing is I grew up in the church, so I led worship. And I really loved that feeling of getting people to quiet down and be still for a moment. And when you're up there and people are walking in, everybody's had a morning and, their kids are all over the place and, trying to settle themselves in. And then all of a sudden, through music and song and thought, people get really still, close their eyes, and you take them, to this place. And I knew I loved that. That feeling was really good and I enjoyed it a lot. And I thought, what happens if I could do something like that? I didn't want to go back into music though. I mean, I had a degree in it, but I was, kind of done with that. And that feeling was just there and I just activated the feeling of what I loved. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't want to go back into music, so I didn't resist it. I just got into the feeling of helping people get quiet and learning about themselves. And of course, when I met Bob, it just resonated. I didn't know that was what I was going to do. People said, you should be a coach for Bob. And 3 times I said, oh no, I could never do that. I don't know this stuff. It's too big. I know religion, but I don't know this. And then somebody said, you could have dinner with Bob if you decide to become a consultant. And so I was like, I could do that. It inspired me. I didn't know that was going to be the thing, but my thought had been, what would happen if I could do something I loved?
Yeah.
And I loved the idea of sitting down with him. What would that be like for me to sit down with him? And within a month, I was sitting with him. I'd made 50 grand in 2 weeks just by deciding. And I had been in, I think we all have dabbled in network marketing and, I was really lost and I got into network marketing and I couldn't sell $180 auto ship, but I was able to, ask people, for a large sum of money to come and do a program with me. And they knew they could see the changes within me as I was working with Bob. And I said, I have access to one of his programs. I didn't know what I was doing. I just had access. I was a facilitator. I had the mindset of a facilitator of a master. I didn't come out swinging as a master. I was getting my legs underneath it. And I worked with him from 2015, yeah, till 2020. And it became a part of me. And I knew I had such a love for the laws that I knew I wanted to go in that direction. So he taught the laws, but he didn't spend, I wanted my career to be about that, about how to go for it and how to create and build your new self-identity. And that gift that he gave me, I'm forever grateful. I'm forever grateful for it. I think daily sitting down and asking yourself, what would I love? What do I want to do? And it may go against what your family have said, even your spouse. Like, and I stayed married through the whole thing. It wasn't easy, but my husband was my greatest opportunity to solidify my dream within myself. He wasn't an adversary. He helped me condition myself toward it by his opposition, actually. See, when opposition comes, people will go right off the rails. But he was a gift to me to learn to do that. I started applying the natural laws and I didn't make him wrong. I just saw This is my ability to find a way to communicate. This is my dream. This is my vision. No one will do it for you. You must do it for yourself. And to get that solid in you is a spiritual practice. It's not a I know what you're saying about there are steps.
Mm.
I do know what you're saying about that, but it's a spiritual practice. It's a daily method of operation. And learning the laws was probably one of the best gifts I gave myself. And yeah, I hope that was helpful.
All right, that's good. So as people sit there and go, okay, I'm gonna make this decision. What do most people do wrong when they're making decisions versus what they should be doing when they're making a decision? Do they go through a process of, okay, I need to feel this way, it needs to be aligned with this thing, it needs to be true to myself and all that kind of stuff before a decision is made? Versus like what do most people do that's not congruent with how people should be doing it?
Yeah, people get a beautiful vision of how they would like to live. Like I use the idea of a vision. I don't think that people know the difference between a vision and a goal. They're not the same thing.
Mm,
A vision, if you think of a stage, let's say in theater, but you think of a stage and they put on the floodlight, it floods the whole stage. That's like your vision.
right.
Did you ever play the game Life? Yeah, I love that game. And I remember on the game of life, you get a car and you go through and you decide if you're going to get a job first or go to college or whatever. But your life, you don't know what your life is going to look like. But the vision board is, or the game board is like the vision. And so I, I really began to see that my vision was like a stage and it was a floodlight, and I could write about my vision. I could write about the kind of house I wanted to live in and the kind of car and the kind of relationships I wanted and the relaxed state that I wanted to be in. I grew up in Montana, so I really love the outdoors. And so I had this vision for myself. A goal is a spotlight. It's something on your vision board that you say, this is the most interesting thing right now. This is the main act. And you spotlight something, and that becomes your goal. You may not know how to do it. See, a goal is not to get, a goal is to help you grow. And it's in the growing that you get. And most of us stop growing. For some reason, when we finish college or high school or college, we stop growing. And really great leaders or people who are in the 1% or the 3%, they are constantly learning. It's not about information, it's that they are challenging themselves, the inner person, and they don't really care what's going on in the outside. And some of us, our nervous system is so wired to the outside world, we're reacting constantly. We don't know the inside person. I didn't know the inside person. To find her was the journey. That was the journey. So the idea of learning to understand your vision, settle down to know your vision, and quiet, where no one's influencing you about it, other than your desire or your inspired thing, whatever you're inspired by. And I don't think people understand when you make a decision, it's like you draw a line because you're not going to like it when you first start. Can I just tell you, you don't like it.
Right.
You're interested in it, and then you make a decision, and then you've got to face your old way of doing it and build a new model. And it's painful. I would love to say it's easy. It's not. It's difficult because you're in a constant battle of learning to surrender. And I don't think I really knew how to surrender. I had to learn to quiet my nervous system down. And that's what I was saying about the chemistry. We create dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin by just our thoughts. Just our thoughts. And if you don't know how to control your thoughts, then you're reacting to the outside world. And to learn to slow down, it's almost you slow down to speed up, but you got to slow down because you're wired to too many things. You're entangled in too many things. And you've got to learn to let go of those and get quiet and still within yourself. And then You visualize. You don't need to worry about the how at first. You are the how. I've said this to people before. People say, how do you do that? How do you do that? You are the how. You're not quiet enough to know your how. You got to get quiet. And you got to stop letting so many things influence the way you think. Great leaders and great philosophers, they have solidified something within them and they live it. And you've got to learn if you're going to be the leader or the follower. To be a great leader, you must be a very good follower at first. And I learned to be a very good follower. I got my ego out of the way and I learned to follow. And then I shifted to leadership. And it was natural. It wasn't a put on. I see so many people, I'm going to be this, and all of a sudden they start acting like they know it, and they look like they have confidence, but really that's called arrogance.
Mhm.
They're arrogant.
Right.
And you really feel that. I think people who have done the work, you feel the difference between someone who's arrogant and someone who is really humble in what they have learned. And right now, we've had so many people go into the marketplace in coaching. We have a lot of arrogance without really living it or being it. There hasn't been a lot of mentorship. There's just been a lot of information. And this is really messing with people's chemistry. And you feel like, well, they said that they can do that. How come I can't? Well, it's because you can't do it their way. You
Right.
can't compete with them. You got to create you. You got to know you. And that's the ignorance in the marketplace right now. Here's these 10 steps. No, you got to know you first. Get quiet. And I think to get to the infinite, source has it. The infinite has it. But if you're not connected to the infinite and you're connected to, the outside world, you will fail. You will fail. People come to me and say, I want to study with you. And I said, I'll tell you the first thing, do not come in here and study my material. You'll lose. Come in here, don't study the material through you. Come in here and study you through the material. The success principles are right. They have been proven over and over again, but you got to study how you feel about it as you go through it. And that's what people don't do. They just want to study. They want to study the material through themselves. You're not there. If you were there, you would already have it. Your results always tell the truth of how you're thinking. So if you're not getting the results, then you're not thinking.
Mhm.
You're doing someone else's thinking. You're not attached to you, your soul, who you are. Yeah.
So a lot of that has to do with knowing yourself, right? You mentioned that many times as to you have to first know yourself first, understand what you feel about certain things. So if somebody's struggling with, I don't know who I am, how do you guide them towards, okay, here's the base of who you are. How do you guide them towards that thought process?
You have to decide you want more.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing. And your path will light up. You'll be inspired and follow your inspiration. That's what I was saying. If learning to go for it, if you want to know how to go for it, come to my talk and I'll help activate in you and talk to you about what a paradigm is. I'll talk to you about what a goal and a vision is. I'll talk to you about levels of awareness as you're growing, understanding where you're reacting to things. And once you get that, you'll see where you're looping over and over again. And that's what my whole talk of Go For It is about, is to know yourself first. And once you begin to know yourself, then you want to be able to. I think there's three things people really need when they're changing a paradigm. Three of them. The first one is you have to have a program to evaluate yourself, not to get information from, but to evaluate yourself. You want to get a really good program of evaluation. The second thing is you need a coach or a mentor who's living it, who believes it, who follows it, who has the results of that in their life. And then the third thing is you want to be with a community of people who are doing it, where you can be inspired by. I really have a beautiful community, and I'm very protective of that community because I don't want people competing with one another. I want people to be inspired by one another. You are unique to you. You can't be someone else. I remember Bob just saying, "You want to compete with me? If you compete with me, you will lose." And I remember tears just, flooding down my face because my whole life had been about competing. Our whole education system is about competing. And I didn't know myself. And that's why I'm grateful that he helped me lose myself to help me find myself. And it's not his life, it's mine. And when you live your own life, it is beautiful. You fall in love with you. And this is what I'm not talking from an egotistical standpoint. I'm just saying you're given one life to um, to witness. You're given one life. And if you're lucky enough, you get to witness your children's life and see them grow. But I remember Bob would say, you know, you want to love yourself so much that you mwah, kiss yourself. And I feel that way. I love spending time with myself. I think I'm fascinating to see how I think and create. And I celebrate. This is where I think real joy is. I think joy is here. And I think that's what we're all looking for is really fulfillment. It's not really happiness as much as joy. Joy comes sometimes in sadness as well, and sometimes in hard stuff. You know, I don't know about you, but if you've ever climbed a mountain or something and you get to the top and you're all sweaty and you know, it was difficult to get up there and then you look at the view and you're like, oh, that was worth every moment. But on the way up the mountain, you never trip on the mountaintop. You don't ever trip on the mountaintop. You trip on the sticks and stones on the way up. And you've got to become aware of the sticks and stones on the way up to have that mountain. And when you're there, it's so much sweeter, it's so much richer.
Mhm.
Have you ever been to the tea houses at Lake Louise?
I believe I've been to one of them, yeah.
Yes. Best tea when you've hiked that high up. Best tea in the world.
I was gonna say, when you were talking about the mountain hike, there's a place called the Peak in Hong Kong, and
Yes.
it's this long walk up, right? And all I was telling myself and my brother is like, okay, when we get up there, it's gonna be so worth it. When we get up there, it's gonna be so worth it. Fortunately, when we got up there, it was fog, so you can see squat. I'm like, so then we kind of took that as a humorous kind of thing because now we're taking photos as if we're amazed with this fog. So
Yeah.
now we have a story to tell that yeah, that was so much fun. There was really nothing to see, but man, it was worth it. Well, thank you so much. I think that was a great mic drop moment for us right there. You had a lot of great wisdom there, and it's so important for people to really get in tune with themselves. If they're not in tune with themselves, nothing else really fits. And if you are thinking that everything is fitting right now, eventually that does catch up to you. And then you go and going circling back to the very beginning, you go, unfortunately, lots of us and lots of people out there don't make that shift until something negative happens.
Yeah.
And why wait? If we can find that thing now, if we could get in tune with ourselves now, then the right decisions will come along the way, and then the right actions will follow suit, and everything will come, which is so important. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much for all that. But before I let you go,
Yeah.
I have some quick rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
Give me the first thing that come to mind. So, you're stranded on a deserted island, and you only have one food to eat for the rest of your life. There's no consequence, so you still be healthy and fit. What is that?
Mangoes.
Uh, I love the people who bring up fruit because I know they're healthy all the time anyway. So so Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey Angie, we love your story. You're a great inspiration. The story is completely motivating. We would love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?"
Meryl Streep.
Streep shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, I got cast to play you. Let's hang out. Let's have some fun." What does that night out with Meryl look like?
We would probably be on my couch. Just, yeah, just on my couch, curled up in front of the fire, just chatting. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Just
that
like,
chat goes on for hours,
yeah.
and you're getting to know each other. And then she goes, "Oh, I'm hungry." And you're, "Hey, Meryl, we're best buddies now. How about you come over here? I'm gonna make you something nice, my special dish. What's that special dish you can prepare?"
Ooh, I love Greek food, so I probably would make a Greek meal. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. You're on a road trip, and you only have one song to listen to on hours on end. What's that one song?
Wonder by Shawn Mendes. I
Nice
love that
choice.
song. Yeah. Yeah. I love the idea that the goal is what is the person that wonder what it would be like to be loved by you. That's my
Mhm.
goal. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I got six cards here. Give me one to six, a number.
Three.
One, two, three.
Yep.
So the word is aquarium.
Aquarium.
So if you had to use aquarium as a metaphor for success, how is success like an aquarium?
Hmm. Yeah, I would say go with the flow. Yeah.
Nice and simple. Very nice. So that's how success is like an aquarium. Well, once again, thank you very much for everything that you shared, your story, some tips, some wisdom. Any final words from you, and what's the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah. I think a beautiful life, creating a beautiful life is the best gift you're given, the absolute best, and you got to unwrap it.
Mhm.
If you want to go for it, you can go to elevateyouinstitute.com and you can register for my talk there. It's a free talk. I do it on Tuesdays. We do a couple of times, 11 Pacific or 4 Pacific, and it's through Zoom. Um, yeah, I just stay in touch. Just find a great mentor, a great teacher, find someone and start. Just start the journey. I think that's the best thing. Find out what you love and start.
Awesome. Very nicely done. So everybody out there, make sure you connect with Angie if you're struggling with anything, if you're wanting more, if you want to make that decision to make more and be more, of course, join Angie on her talks on Tuesday and get in touch with her. Obviously, she knows what she's talking about. And until next time, today is the day to lock your P potential. She's Angie. My name is Fong. We'll see you next time.